It's said that in order to keep fit, you should do something every day that takes you out of breath for 15 minutes. Some people like to go for a run or pay for an expensive gym membership maybe, but some of us, we're living in the future. That's where Sportvida Cyberdash comes in, a new game available for MetaQuest now that is designed to help you with your workouts. Exercising in VR is nothing new. There are tons of applications that are either designed to help you exercise, like FitXR or BoxXR or numerous other ones. And then there's others that are games that coincidentally help you work out, such as Thrill of the Fight. Or even something like Beat Saber or Synth Riders. They always get you active. Being active in VR is a great way to help you exercise, to help you work out and engage your muscles and your body, and maybe get out of breath or get a bit hot and sweaty at times, in order to, to keep you interested in the idea of that exercise. And Sportvida Cyberdash is a game designed around the idea of getting you to work out more. It's pretty simple stuff. At first, you'll be waving your arms to simulate running, much like Sprint Vector way back in the day, for those of you who remember that Servius game. And more recently, games like Gorilla Tag, where movement is all done through the motion of your arms. But in Sportvida, it's not a simple case of strolling along. You must put effort in. There's 2 modes to your movement in Sportvida Cyberdash, but even the lenient mode, as they call it, it doesn't so much take into account the waving of your arms side to side, but it does still require you to put some effort into that movement to build up your pace. Building up your pace is displayed by a meter at the bottom of the screen, and as this meter fills, while you're continually waving your arms to move, you'll increase your speed, and eventually the meter will increase to a point where you can glide, which means maintaining the pace that you've built without waving your arms. While you're doing this, however, there are a number of different obstacles that appear on each of the courses. Some of them are little balls that you're supposed to put the left or right hand to, coloured, coordinated, in order to smash them as you go through, kind of similar to Synth Riders. Others are blocks that you must slash with laser swords, similar to Beat Saber. There's a lot of inspiration from a lot of other very popular VR games in here, and that's not a bad thing. The Sportvida Cyberdash's appeal is based around gamifying your workout, and as such, taking inspiration from some of the more popular games is never going to hurt. What does hurt, however, is sometimes these blocks, it's hard to decipher which ones you're supposed to be doing. Some are punch, some are slash, some are ram, which basically just means run through them. And some of them are obstacles that you must avoid. The ones that you must avoid, they're generally walls, so you can interpret that pretty easily. But the punch, slash, ram ones, I think a little more colour distinction would help with that. The level design is, if you think of like a Rainbow Road track from Mario Kart, not as colourful, but that kind of ethereal pathway in a distant space, blackness kind of thing, that's what you've got here. And you move through it by pivoting your body. You must turn in order to go around the corners. Now it starts with very gentle corners, just turning slightly as you're waggling your arms to run, and you'll navigate around the track, the winding road. But I often found when I was playing that the movement from side to side on the track wasn't exactly accurate. It did often start pivoting me to the left, even when I was clearly angling my body to the right. Which of course doesn't really help when you're trying to avoid blocks in shape of walls. And this is moving your body. It's not a simple case of I can turn my head and move that direction. You won't get the momentum. You do need to physically move your body in order to go down the correct pathway. As you're sprinting down these tracks, waving your arms and trying to hit blocks or slash blocks or whatever the objective may be, you'll also have time gates on the level. And these time gates, kind of a similar concept to Outrun or other racing games of that ilk. And you must approach them within a time limit, and should you achieve that, then you get more time extended to reach the next one. If you fail, it is a bit lenient. It does give you a second window which you can run through that gate. However, you cannot have multiple windows in a run, multiple extensions in a run. You must make sure that if I fail this one and the next one, the third one, I've got to hit that, or you'll fail the course. Of course, Sportvida Cyberdash does come with all the usual kind of leaderboards and stat trackers and helping you manage your workout. And it is going to get you sweaty. It is going to make you feel like you have had some exercise and a workout in these kind of applications, be it on mobile or on VR. The calorie count and things like that, they're never entirely accurate, but it is a good barometer for your progress. You wake up one morning, do a quick 3-minute workout, you've burnt 100 calories, and the next morning you're going to try and do 120. The next morning you do 150, and you'll build up slowly over time. And Sportvida Cyberdash does have good metrics for you in order to monitor this, in order to make sure that you know how you are performing, how you are engaged. So it is, as I've said, about gamifying that workout. You are playing a game, you are trying to complete these objectives and beat high scores and whatever else, but at the same time, it is tracking your progress and it is giving you good feedback. Maybe not perfect, but good feedback on how you're performing in terms of exercise. The menu system and the UI is constructed in a very clever way. It does make it feel like Beat Saber or Symphony, which we recently reviewed up here. And it does make it feel like you are progressing and unlocking new things as you go, making the game more interesting, keeping you coming back, despite the fact that you might be quite tired at the end of your runs. There's also a ranking system for how you perform in each level, and sadly, I struggle to perform particularly well. Now, I'm not the fittest guy on the planet, and I'm not particularly young, but I'm also, I'm not terrible. So I certainly am going to have to put much more effort in order to get my rank up on these levels. So Sportvida Cyberdash, it's not anything particularly original, but it is a good combination of the games that have inspired it, and it definitely will make you feel like you've had a workout. If you're looking for some kind of new exercising experience in VR, this one's definitely worth a look. The game launched in early access last year and has been continually updated since then. And now we're at full release. The studio has taken on board a lot of feedback to make this game compelling. To make it compelling to get sweaty and do your workout. And they've been successful. Sportvida Cyberdash is available for MetaQuest headsets now, and it is an interesting and compelling workout experience in VR. We recommend you go and check this one out. Do you like moving through virtual reality environments at a snail's pace, taking on enemies that are semi-randomly placed with no ability to dodge or strafe? Well then boy, have I got the game for you. Quantum Threshold is available now for MetaQuest headsets. Quantum Threshold is an interesting game. It has lots of ideas, but there are quite a lot of issues too. Now, you're a wheelchair-bound hero exploring environments in a sort of semi-like neon dystopia. Like imagine the first Perfect Dark, the N64 one. That kind of environment. But of course, you're wheelchair bound, so everything is at ground level. There is no verticality, scaling buildings or anything like that. And the mechanics for movement are quite difficult. You move at a snail's pace because you have two controllers that you pick up from the front of your wheelchair, and you move your two sticks on your controllers in order to progress. But you can't hold one and a gun at the same time. And the enemy placement in the game is so irritatingly designed to catch you out that realistically you're only going to want to use one movement controller and hold a gun in the other hand, and this means your speed is cut in half. There is a boost mechanic which takes some recharge time and so on, but the majority of the way you're going to be crawling at a snail's pace through these environments. Now that contributes to your ability to look around and explore, grabbing pickups and cash, which will be important later, from the environment, and also making sure you're exploring every nook and cranny to find out where those enemies are hiding, because a wall-mounted turret round a corner can end your run. The game is essentially a roguelike. It's all about getting cash in these levels. The further you progress, the more enemies you kill, the more cash you get, and that can be taken back to your hub when you die and spent on new weapons and upgrades and so on. And it takes some time to get into this. When you first start playing, you'll find that it's only 2 minutes into a level before you're taken down by an unsuspecting gun turret or ninja that spawned behind you. Yes, enemies can spawn behind you, and it can be frustrating. It can be very annoying at first. But eventually, you'll learn the layout of the maps, and you'll learn where pickups will be, and be able to buy enough upgrades to progress through each stage. Now, the game is semi-random. Now, this means that there are level layouts that are identical, but occasional placements of enemies will change. The power-ups always spawn in the same spot, but the power-up that is offered in that spot can be different on each run. So what you'll find is you'll go into a level that you eventually become familiar with the layout through trial and error, and you know where the exit you need to head to is, but you still need to go slowly in order to make sure you're not picked off by some new enemy that's appeared that wasn't there on any of your previous runs. The enemy types have quite a bit of variety to them. There are ones that will charge at you and try to slash you. There are snipers, as I said before. There are turrets, the little gribbly things that crawl across the floor and leave, like, I don't know if they're like bombs or something, or some kind of thing that hurts you when you get near it. And there's also, on some of the levels, this big like drone helicopter thing that you can see it from a mile away. It has red lines that come down from it showing where its field of vision is. But if you get caught within that, it's over. Even when you get some health pickups and a shield and so on, and even if you're using your boost mechanic to run away, it's highly unlikely you're going to get out of that line of sight and still continue your run. So Quantum Threshold, it offers an intriguing take on the roguelite, but the difficulty is so aggressive at the start, and the game does not give you any kind of hand-holding at all. You spawn, and it tells you need to go into the level, so you go into the level, and then it doesn't tell you what you're doing when you're there. And you have to figure out, oh, I'm going to find the exit. And after a few runs, you realise that although the game throws up, like, investigate the area or something similar, it's always just find the exit. And occasionally you'll come across things in the level, such as having to shoot a control panel in order to unlock a door. Pretty basic stuff. I'd be reticent to call them puzzles. It's more just about finding the route through. And once you've done it once, it is the same every time. And every time is many times, because as I say, the difficulty is very aggressive at the start of the game. Once you have some familiarity and you've bought some power-ups, it does get a bit easier. It's manageable, but it's still quite aggressive. You'll still find almost every time you reach a new area, you will be respawning from the start of the level and going through multiple areas again. Once you've done some progress, you'll find there are boss fights and more variety that's thrown into the game. And the boss fights, again, are insanely aggressive, especially because you want to use your two guns. You want to amp up that firepower, but you still need to be maneuvering, and the maneuverability is limited. You're constantly in this face-off between, do I dodge and maneuver by using both of my steering abilities, both of my accelerators, or do I put them both away, just stand here and use both my guns and shoot, or one and the other, which is kind of like it's a half-baked solution that's solving neither problem. So Quantum Threshold makes you think a lot about how you use these two mechanics, the movement and the shooting. And realistically, in the time we had with the game, there's no straight answer. Every scenario asks for a different solution. So it is very much a game of trial and error, as you would expect from roguelite. And it is different to a lot of the shooting games that are available on the MetaQuest headsets right now. But different isn't always good. If you're looking for a run-and-gun shooter, or a Call of Duty or Serious Sam style game, this is not it. This is a game that you take slow and methodically. It's not a stealth game, but it is about making sure that you're covering all of your corners at every moment. It's a game in which you need to be paying attention to the enemy more than they are paying attention to you. The upgrades that you can get, Each level only has a minor impact, but once you've accumulated quite a few, you do feel the difference. And the weaponry, the amount that you can go through and the upgrades you can get for each of them, some of which come through completing mastery challenges in the game, but it never tells you what the mastery challenges are. They do change the way the game plays, the way the combat plays, at least. So there is some variety and there is some compulsion to continue on, to keep pushing through the game. But if you're the kind of gamer that just wants something quick and easy and fun to play in their spare time and isn't looking for a new challenge, a very hefty challenge, then Quantum Threshold is not going to appeal. It's a game that it demands a lot from the player in order to enjoy. And the first hour, maybe more, of playing the game will be stuck in a situation where you're wondering what you're doing, why you have to play in this way and why you're constantly dying. It takes a while for this game to click. So most certainly the onboarding could do with some improvement. Quantum Threshold is available for MetaQuest headsets now, and if you are looking for a challenging new VR experience, then sure, this has some interesting ideas and it's probably worth checking out. But if you're just getting started in VR and you're looking for something to entertain you and bring you the ideals of what this medium can be, this probably isn't the game for you. Gorn II is available for MetaQuest headsets now. It's the sequel to the hugely popular, incredibly violent Gorn. But what does it do different? What does it do that's better than the original? Stick around and you'll find out. Gorn II adds an extra layer of all the essentials that you would expect from a sequel. More weapons, more enemy types, more arenas, more traps and power-ups, and more. Everything that you would typically expect. What it does however, that's actually more impressive, is the way in which it layers on the different engagements in combat. We're going to start by talking about the extras that you get, those statistics. So the game has 35 different weapons, some of which are quite varied, some of which are similar to what you'll have experienced in the original Gorn. There's a whole host of new arenas with different environmental hazards, which, if you're a smart player, you can make sure the enemy is more engaging with those traps than you are. There's also a bunch of different power-ups that give you things like mega hands, allowing you to wield two-handed weapons with one hand, or just giving you power-ups to restore your health and so on. There's also a story element to the game, which sees you fighting through 5 different children, children of the gods, whichever way you want to say it. And while this is nice, it's a good addition, you're really just here for the combat, right? For the violence, for the bloodshed, for the adrenaline rush that you get from taking down hordes of enemies. And this is where Gorn II shines over the original. The combat in the original was pretty good, right? If you played it, you probably enjoyed it. But in Gorn II, the accuracy of your blows is significantly improved, and you'll often find that because there's more enemy types, the tactics in which you have to use in order to take advantage are much more varied. What's more, you can have more enemy models on screen at any one time. This, after playing for even just a short amount of time, can lead to some pretty chaotic battles when there's traps around the arenas and 4 or 5 enemies coming at you all at once, all with different weapons, all different sizes, and all with different tactics. You have to keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you're looking around the arena to know who's coming at you from which direction and with which weapons in order to balance your tactics. It makes for a much more intense game than the original. The original was fun, and it is still worth picking up to this day. But Gorn II takes everything that we've learned and that we love about the original Gorn and increases it significantly. Increases the intensity, increases the immersion, increases the adrenaline rush of a successful battle. Playing through the aforementioned story mode, which is the main gameplay mode in the game, will unlock new weapons and arenas for use in the supplementary modes, of which there are 2. There's the customizable matches, which allow you to set varying rules and different weapon types and so on, and allow you to engage in a one-off bout of combat however you wish. And this is fun. This is always going to be fun. You can set a 5-10 minute game, come on in, smash around a few heads, and you've had your fun. Great stuff. But in addition, there's the Endless mode. Now this is a gameplay mode in which, as the name suggests, you are in an arena with endless waves of enemies coming towards you, and the idea here is to survive. Now, the difficulty curve in this mode is slow to begin with, but it does creep up pretty rapidly. Honestly, this is great when you're first starting the game, but after you've got a bit more experience, you'll find the first waves can be pretty boring and pretty slow. So the custom mode is probably a better option for you once you've got some experience at the game. But Endless mode, strangely, is only available once you've completed the main story mode. We think it's a bit of a weird connection. Endless mode surely would be better to unlock after a small amount of progress, and custom games unlocked once you finish the story mode. But the developers have seen fit to do it the other way around, so maybe there's a reason to their madness. The original Gorn wasn't exactly an ugly looking game, it was perfectly capable for its time, but Gorn II is significantly improved in all areas, and just like the combat, it's improved in such a way that you probably won't realise it until you play Gorn II, then go back and play the original after. The animation in particular has seen a significant upgrade. While it's still very slapstick, of course, the way the enemies move around the arena is much more entertaining than it was in the original. Furthermore, all the weapons kind of behave like rubber. It's like you're slapping enemies with rubber chickens a lot of the time. Or at least that's what the visual style is. The impact you feel, the clout of actually hitting your enemies successfully with a big hit, with a hammer or a mace or something similar, it's tangible. You do feel that impact. You feel like you are landing blows. Precisely how you wish to land them. Of course, it's not perfect. There are some times where you'll swing and you'll feel like the blow didn't land with the force that you intended it, or even on the location that you expected it to land. But this happens a lot with motion control games, especially in VR. And in Gorn II, it is more reliable, it is better implemented than most games. So Gorn II is a significant improvement on the original in terms of all the statistics, in terms of the numbers, in terms of the animation, in terms of the enemy varieties, in terms of the customizability of your custom matches, in terms of the arena layouts. In every single way you can imagine, Gorn II does improve over the original, and that is great. Is it a significant enough improvement to purchase Gorn II if you weren't that huge a fan of Gorn? Probably not. But in my experience, the people who weren't a fan of Gorn is a very small percentage of the people who played it. In which case, if you were a fan of Gorn, Gorn II just gives you more. So what's not to love there? Gorn II is available for MetaQuest headsets now. It's a game of intense, slapstick, gory violence. So if that's your bag, we highly recommend you go and download this one right now. Richie's Plank Experience is quite a famous VR game. You go up in an elevator, come out, walk a plank over a city, and maybe fall to your death. And that's all there is to it, but it was still really popular. Until recently, when it became no longer available in the MetaQuest store. So what's the alternative? Well, here's Walk the Plank, a brand new, top-selling game available on MetaQuest headsets.
Oh my
Walk the Plank is essentially the new Richie's Plank experience. It's almost identical, in fact. You start the game on the floor level, walk into an elevator, choose your plank from a wide variety of different planks, whether you're day or night, some other minor options. Go up in the elevator, the doors open and you're at the top of a skyscraper looking down at the city below. You can walk out onto the plank, you can look around the environment, and if you fall off, you'll come crashing back down to the floor. It's a really simple experience. The name Walk the Plank tells you pretty much everything you need to know about this. And if you've played Richie's Plank experience, you pretty much know what you're going to get here. There are some minor additions, like the variety of planks, and the fact that you can play a couple of different games. For example, there's a red light, green light style experience where a sign pops up saying stop and go, and if you go when it says stop, you will lose the plank and fall to the floor. But aside from this, Walk the Plank doesn't really add much to the experience. And they do say that, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. And if that's true, these guys really liked Richie's Plank experience. One of the key features is the variety of planks you can walk out on. Different kind of materials and widths, but they really don't change the experience much. Like many games of this ilk available for MetaQuest now, there is even an additional golden plank that you can unlock simply by rating the game. However, again, this doesn't actually change anything. It's just a gold variation of a wooden plank. You don't get any kind of different sensation as you're walking along it, and it doesn't really matter. It's a nice extra to have, of course, but it doesn't bring anything new. What does aim to bring something new to the game is the MR mode. Now this sounds interesting, but in reality, it's pretty basic stuff. In the MR mode, after you've placed where your elevator and plank will be, by manually taking a silhouette and opting for the space in which you want it, in a room that you have enough space in order to walk the plank, of course, you will see the elevator with the doors open into your real-world surroundings. You can adjust the settings before you go up in the elevator, but once you press that button and the doors close, it becomes an entirely VR experience again. The only difference here is that when you first begin the initial ascent, if you like, before the ascent even, you see your room that you're actually in. And when you open those doors, you're in the VR environment. So while having MR is surely a nice thing to check on the store page, it doesn't really add anything to the experience at all. So Walk the Plank is selling well, apparently. According to the MetaQuest store right now, it is a top seller on the store. Which is a shame, because Richie's Plank experience already has pretty much everything that's available here, and was the first one to do it. It was the original. Walk the Plank is pretty much a blatant rip-off of Richie's Plank experience. So we're sorry to the devs that worked hard on this game. We're sure you put some love into it, but you've not really changed the game. You've not added anything new to the formula. The MR experience is negligible. There's hardly any difference to this and the VR experience that already existed with Richie's Plank experience. So, if you're diehard and you really want Richie's Plank experience on MetaQuest, and obviously you can't get it right now, Walk the Plank is a good alternative. But it doesn't do anything new. So don't be expecting any kind of change of pace from Richie's Plank experience with Walk the Plank. The experience of walking the plank and getting this fear of heights and whatever else is still a great VR experience for newcomers. It's still a great VR experience for people who just want to have that fear of heights stirred up in them. But again, it's not doing anything new, and it's not changing the game with its MR edition. So realistically, there's no reason to buy Walk the Plank if you already own Richie's VR experience. So let's say you grew up on games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Fatal Fury and love those kind of one-on-one fighting games. But you also love VR. So what kind of games are there for you? As it stands, not very much. But Kluge Interactive are here to change that with Final Fury, available now in early access.
Round 1, fight!
Final Fury is a one-on-one fighting game, a modern take on the traditional 2D beat-em-up that we're all very used to. It's a strange combination because it's had to make some exceptions for VR. Understandable to those who have been here for a while, but if you're new to VR, you might wonder why these changes have been made. To begin with, the game plays from a first-person perspective, which is understandable. But when executing throws or heavy impact attacks, the camera will zoom out to a third person and you'll be watching from above an angle, also almost isometric angle, as the action unfurls. Now this has been done, obviously, to avoid simulation sickness. You don't want to be inside your character while you're spinning around 720 degrees, throwing the enemy up into the air, jumping up, grabbing them and slamming them into the ground. That would not be comfortable. However, that kind of ridiculous moveset exists in Final Fury because it is going for the whole Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, general SNK style fighting game. It is not supposed to be Thrill of the Fight, a realistic boxing game. It is a fantasy, one-on-one beat-em-up fighting game, similar, as I say, to Street Fighter or many of the SNK classics. Even the name, Final Fury, suggests it's pretty closely inspired by Fatal Fury, which is no bad thing.
Hardcore! Hardcore! Hardcore!
In VR, we haven't yet come across many games like this, and Final Fury, without a doubt, is the best that we have experienced. That's not to say there aren't issues in this game. To begin with all being based on motion controls, a lot of the time your inputs can be misrecognized. The way in which the motion controls are structured is pretty cool. For example, some of them will be based on movements like throwing a fireball, a Hadouken, in Street Fighter, or like Raiden calling down the lightning in Mortal Kombat. And it's cool that these actions are replicated in VR with the motion controllers. The level at which they are detected isn't perfect. Sometimes you'll be in a perfect position to throw out a special move and do great damage, and instead the game will throw a basic punch. And this is annoying. It surely will be worked on over time, and the range at which is accepted to perform these moves or perform a basic punch will be hemmed in. But right now, it can get a bit irritating after long times of play when you find that actually I'm losing a lot of health or maybe even matches because it's not detecting the right inputs. And while the special moves are fantastic and they're all very cool when they are executed, the basic moveset is practically non-existent. There are punches, left and right punches, and there is no difference basically on how you execute these punches in terms of how much damage they do or where they hit your opponent, and there is no opportunity to hit your opponent at different parts. A leg sweep or even just simply punching a leg, for example, is just simply not possible. The punches left and right do the same amount of damage upon impact regardless of how much strength you put into the punch or any other metric. So the basic moveset does need to be worked on considerably. As I said earlier, there are throws as well in the game, and there's also a reversal. If you are taking damage, you can put both hands up to block, and this will create a glowing shield around your fist to let you know you are in the block stance. This is fine. But when you're trying to do the reversal, once again, the motion control system sometimes is quite inaccurate, and you'll simply exit the block rather than doing the block reversal move, which is a real shame because you're going to be investing time taking damage into your block system only for it just to disappear. Now, while the fighting mechanics are generally, there are most of the fundamentals in here, the other aspects of the game will certainly need some work. For example, there's only a small selection of characters. Now, it's undoubted that more are coming down the line, but anyone who is already a fan of fighting games like this will be used to character rosters 4, 5, 6, 7 times the size of what is available in Final Fury right now. It's going to take some time to evolve to a point at which there is a character that everybody likes, a specific character for everyone's playstyle. There is an arcade mode which sees you play through all the characters and eventually unlock a hidden one, which we won't talk about here. I want to keep that one a surprise. But after you've done this, there's not much to come back to. Unless, of course, you're a fan of the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer mode, in our experience, is literally just single matches, one-on-one. There is no tournament structure, there is no watching, no observing spectator system or anything like that involved. It is, you can create a room and have people join your room, or you can join into a quick match. That's all we've got. So again, much like the gameplay, while the fundamentals, the building blocks, the foundations, if you like, of the game are solid, there needs to be a lot more built on top in order to make Final Fury actually representative of this genre in VR. The visual style of the game, there is no arguments with. The game, with its cartoony graphics and its fluid animation, is top-notch stuff. Obviously, the studio that has developed this, Kluge Interactive, are very experienced in the field of VR, so you wouldn't expect any less. But here, the depth of colour and variety in what few characters are there is fantastic. And the animations in the game, while sometimes you might not execute the move that you wish to execute, the resulting move you do execute always looks great. It's animated well, it's colourful, you really have a sense that what you are committing to is playing out in a very stylish manner.
Power core! Power core! Power core! Power core! Power core! Power core!
So Final Fury, available as an early access title on MetaQuest headsets, is a great starting point. It has most of the fundamentals down. We need to expand on the basic moveset and also bring the accuracy of the special moves in. Outside of that, a lot of work has to be done to build this, to flesh this out into a full game. We need more characters, more arenas, more gameplay modes, maybe even a story element. The fact that you can customize the color palette of your fighters and there is a little bit of story detail in there is nice, but we need more. So if you are a massive fan of fighting games like myself, if you've grown up on Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Final Fury and Art of Fighting and King of Fighters, then go get Final Fury. If you're looking for that one fighting game that's going to change your opinion and bring you into fighting games in VR, keep an eye on Final Fury, give it some time, and we'll see how this one develops. Stay Forever Home is available now for MetaQuest headsets. The game has been billed as a kind of modern Nintendogs, which is 20 years old now apparently. But that's not really the whole truth. While there is a virtual pet element to Stay Forever Home, there's much more going on besides. Stick around to find out if Stay Forever Home can become your new virtual pet adventure favourite.
Our girl, time to go.
Stay Forever Home is billed as a virtual pet simulator with a bit of a twist. But it's really the other way around. The twist is the bigger part of the experience than the virtual pet. Here at 131XR, we recently reviewed Eggy, which you can see up here. And Eggy is more of a virtual pet experience than Stay Forever Home. Stay Forever Home gives you a pet you cannot choose. It's just the one straight up weird dog, wolf, fox thing called Ember. And Ember is your buddy for adventuring. The game has two parts to it which coexist. The first is the strictly virtual pet stuff. And this is MR. You have Ember who sits in your room and you can throw a ball and play fetch and clean Ember and play with them. And it's fine. It works perfectly well as a virtual pet simulator if you want a dog, wolf, fox-like thing as a virtual pet. But the more interesting thing is you have a door that you can place in your room. And when you open the door, you and Ember travel to a fully VR world. And it's here where Stay Forever Home really stands out. In this virtual world, you can conduct lots of different things. You can collect items to trade for other items that Ember wants. For example, for getting nicer food or a leash to take him for walks or whatever it may be. And this is one quest line that you can follow, exploring the environment to find these items and then trading them up for different items. But there's also several other interactive aspects to the game that exist in this virtual world. There are basic missions that unfold for you to clean up the garden. It is phrased as a garden, it is a relatively small area, but it does allow you to explore. There is lots and lots of exploration in this area. To begin with, there's simple things like cleaning away vines, and you see these little, presumably cat ball type creatures that all interact in different ways. Some of them will steal goods, some of them will try and attack Ember, and Ember will chase them, and so on. But all of this rolled in together with the many other minor interactions that you can do in this area create a free-form playground. There is no time limit and there's no pressure to conduct these quest objectives. They're not even really quest objectives, just suggestions of how to interact in this world. And that allows you to play, essentially. It is a playground. You can press on and go for these objectives and try and solve them and get to the next bit, or you can simply explore the environment and take in the sights and of this very colourful, cel-shaded-ish world, and engage with the activities as and when you so choose. It's a very freeform combination of, do I want to continue to explore and unveil what else is in this world, or do I want to stick to the path that's laid out in front of me? And really, there's never any pressure to do either. Stay Forever Home is a good-looking game. As I said before, it's incredibly colourful, the world, and it is obviously aimed at a younger audience, or at least a family audience. But there is still enough here to warrant investigation from older gamers. It's not quite to the depths of something like Animal Crossing about the amount of interaction you can do and the customization, but you can customize your garden in certain ways. You can uproot plants and move them around and add additional objects in the environment. And when you're done with your customization and adventuring in the VR world, you can return through the door back to your MR world simply for the virtual pet simulator, for playing with Ember in your own space rather than going on walks and adventures in the VR space. There's very few points in the game at which you're stuck with nothing to do. You'll always be encouraged either by the objectives given to you or by wants that Ember has or trading options. You're always encouraged to be doing something. And that's a bit different to most virtual pet simulators, which are typically come here for 5, 10, 15 minutes, do this thing, and then go away again. Stay Forever Home can give you hours at a time of entertainment at a very leisurely pace. While there is some basic action involved, such as chasing the little cat ball things and so on, it's not exactly a high-octane experience. And there is no sprint functionality, though both teleportation and smooth locomotion options do exist. You are encouraged to take things slow, to unwind and enjoy the world that has been presented to you. And there is certainly room in VR for that kind of experience. But don't be expecting any kind of adrenaline rush gameplay here. That's not what Stay Forever Home is about. The options to expand Stay Forever Home post-launch are pretty extensive. The garden can be expanded quite a lot. You could add in additional pets if there is enough request for them. Ember is lovely. It's a very lovely pet creature to have with you. But maybe some customization options, maybe changing the color or maybe even adding in different species would be optional down the line. And Stay Forever Home is positioned to become a game that is open-ended, that more and more can be added into it. The basics are here, the fundamentals are there, and there's enough to keep you engrossed for several hours as the game stands. So there's only hope that the developers are going to see this, are going to recognize that there is opportunity, and I'm sure they already have. There's opportunity to expand on what is here in numerous different ways, adding in new quest lines, if you can call them quests, activities, pet options, customization options, and so on. Stay Forever Home, as it stands, this Day 1 launch edition, is a great platform upon which to build. So while Stay Forever Home may not be the virtual pet simulator you're expecting, there's much more going on here besides. It doesn't take away from the virtual pet element, simply builds on it. So if you were going to choose a virtual pet simulator in VR right now, Stay Forever Home would be our recommendation. Mad Surgeon Goblin Hospital is available now for MetaQuest headsets. The game has been brought to us by My Dearest. This is the team that have brought us innovative VR experiences like Dyschronia and Brazen Blaze. So can Mad Surgeon Goblin Hospital live up to those expectations? Stick around and you'll find out. Mad Surgeon Goblin Hospital is a comedy game, not too dissimilar to Hit that we reviewed recently, and you'll find up here. You might think it's a bit like Surgeon Simulator, but really it's nothing like that at all. In this game, you have a goblin that will walk into your room, a very small area that you have with a couple of tables and an operating table ahead of you. Goblin will mount themselves on that operating table, and it's up to you to perform some kind of surgery on them. Remove an arm and replace it with something else. Remove their head and replace it with a robot's head. Why not? It's literally the name of the game. Mad Surgeon. And what you're doing is you're supposed to be building the best kind of goblin you can. You'll remove limbs and parts of the body and eyes or even their head, and then you'll sell those bits to purchase new bits to put onto them. You can also purchase new items to perform your surgeries with. And once you're happy with what you've created, you can release it into the wild or send it into a fiery pit. And that's all there is. There is nothing complex going on in this game, and there is nothing entertaining about it. Mad Surgeon takes inspiration from similar titles in VR and on mobile, in that you interact in a small way, you earn currency, you unlock new things to do that same interaction again and again ad nauseum. But sadly, with Mad Surgeon, there's no compulsion to do so. It is gratuitously violent for the sake of being gratuitously violent. You could say there's a comedy element to it, but it's not funny. Surgeon Simulator was wacky and it involved difficulty that was compelling. You wanted to get better at this game because it was ridiculous and difficult. So the assumption in your mind would be, this should be easy because it's ridiculous, but it wasn't. It was challenging. Mad Surgeon has no level of challenge whatsoever. You pick up a knife, you cut things off, you sell them, send your raven to buy new items, you stick them back on. There is nothing complex going on here, and there is nothing entertaining. Even the visual style of Mad Surgeon, you would expect it to be quite well animated or high quality graphic design, because it's so limited, because there is nothing in this environment. You're in a darkened room with a couple of tables and the goblin that marches towards you. That's all there is. It's hard to see what the intent for Mad Surgeon was. In fact, I'd go as far as to say this is probably just a quick cash-in. Let's put out a comedy game that does really well on social media. Those 30 seconds that you see in that cool TikTok video, that's all the game is. There is nothing else beyond that. It's a real shame that My Dearest, a publisher and developer that has now built itself quite a reputation for delivering quality products in VR, have released this experience. And in my honest opinion, I cannot suggest that anyone entertain purchasing this title. That being said, it is super TikTok friendly. It is super friendly and crazy looking for 30, 40 seconds. So I can imagine there will be a lot of people, especially younger people, that want to experience this game. But once you've had those 30 seconds, there's nothing else to do. It's gratuitously violent and gory for the sake of being so. And I mean, I've been playing Mortal Kombat games for 30 years. I love a bit of violence and bloodshed in my video games. But this is pointless. There's nothing going on here at all. Mad Surgeon Goblin Hospital is available for MetaQuest headsets now. If I had one recommendation for this game, it would be that you don't buy it. All on Board is a social VR board game application. It's available for MetaQuest headsets now, and in theory, it's great. Get together with your friends and people you've never met online and play board games together. In practice, however, there are some issues. game has launched with a small selection of board games available on day one. 4, in fact, including chess and checkers, and then there's a few others that are available as paid DLC. You can play with friends in a private room or have public matches against people across the internet. You can share a code that allows people to join your room. You can watch other players playing in spectator mode or have other players watch you. If there's 3 or 4 of you sharing a room, maybe you're going to arrange a tournament style system or something similar. Winner stays on maybe. But that system has to be made by you. There is no inbuilt functionality to arrange these kinds of things. And this is where the crux of All On Board really comes. The fact is that All On Board makes no provisions for it being a video game. Once you've set your room and invited your friends and you enter the space, you'll be presented with a table featuring the board game of your choice. All is well and good. However, once you start playing, you'll realise that there is no structure to the game. It's simply like having a real-life board in front of you. You can move pieces around in any shape or fashion. There is no tutorial telling you how to play these games, and no system that says, for example in chess, when you pick up a knight, which squares that piece can move to. You can even pick up your opponent's pieces and move them around the board haphazardly. There is no system in place to tell you when you're successful in a move or when you fail, and no kind of barriers at all. Even to the point that when playing chess, as an example, if you take your opponent's piece, you have to remove your opponent's piece from the board before you can move yours into its spot. Now, in reality, this is fine in a real world game because there is context that comes to that. You are picking up your piece, moving it, removing the opponent's, and both players understand what's happening here. But in VR, you are removed from that. There is a layer of distancing that All On Board doesn't seem to have accommodated for. What's more, the control system is super annoying. There's no way to just reach into the board and grab the pieces that you want to move, which seems like a strange decision. It's all done via a targeting-based system where you have to scroll with your hand, then pull the trigger to pick up a piece, and move your hand to where you want the piece to go and release the trigger. There's no immediate just reach in and grab. In fact, holding the grab button moves the world around you, which would be fine. It's a nice option to have, but it really feels like that grab button should be used for grabbing. The fact that there is no kind of informational system means that there's also no kind of tutorial system. You are expected to know how to play the games before you begin. The how to play in the main menu of All On Board before you go into a game simply tells you what the buttons do. And there doesn't seem to be, at least that we could find, any kind of tutorial on how to play each of the individual games. You are able to customize your avatar to a certain extent. There's various different heads that you can choose from, and the developers are promising that more customization options will come later. And of course, we're expecting that more games will be added later, either free games or additional paid DLC. But this doesn't get past the point that you actually have to know how to play these games before going in. If there's a game you've never heard of that looks like it's fun, you might want to buy it and download it and try and play it with your friends. But there's no tutorial system on how to play these games, so unless one of your friends is willing to teach you in VR, or in real life on a real board and then go and play in VR, you're not going to be compelled to buy these additional features. The visual design of All On Board is perfectly fine. The pieces that you're playing with look nice, and the environments that you're in are great, and the ability to communicate with friends that are maybe halfway across the world or that you haven't seen in a long time and play these games together is wonderful. But there's just no reason why you would choose this over many of the competitors that are available. The element of VR that increases immersion and connectivity with other people is available in many different types of game. And the strength that All On Board could have is allowing players to share an experience that maybe one of them isn't so familiar with, and it could simplify that process. There are people that maybe want to teach their friends how to play chess, but this is not the application for that, despite the fact that it has much greater connection through communication than on a two-dimensional screen. All On Board is a great starting point, but that's all there is. There's much more that needs to be done in order to make this the application to go to for social board games in VR, which is ultimately we're sure what it wants to be. As it stands, it's a decent price, £7.99 or your local currency equivalent, and it shows that it could be a good experience, a fun social experience for you and your friends to enjoy. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of questionable decisions that have gone into the way that the game is executed. At present, there are other, better social VR experiences centered around board games, so we can't recommend all on board. However, give it some time, let's see what the developers do and how the game progresses in the weeks, months and years from now. Maybe one day we'll come back and go, actually, they fixed these issues, this is now a great platform for entertaining your friends, for learning new things, and for being social. Welcome to 131XR and this review of Cooking Clash, a brand new time management game available for MetaQuest headsets now. Time management games have been around for quite a while now, especially on mobile devices. But in VR they can be something different, more immersive. Is Cooking Clash one of the top tier ones available for MetaQuest? Stick around and you'll find out. So Cooking Clash follows the traditional setup of time management games in that you are a restaurant owner and people will come into your restaurant and they will request a specific dish and you'll have to prepare it and then give it to them in exchange for money. So far, so normal. There's nothing that really makes Cooking Clash stand out at this point. There's free gameplay modes, an endless mode in which you can get up to 5 poor responses from customers. There's the 5-minute relaxation mode and the 5-minute rush mode, essentially adrenaline mode, challenge mode if you like. And all 3 of these gameplay modes have the same basic formula.
I'll let you know when it's just right. It's ready. Take the patty out of the pan and place. Great job. Now, just add the top bun. Finish. The burger looks amazing. Serve it up and watch. Look, the customer loves it. Let's see how much they'll pay for your tasty burger.
Oh my gosh, this burger is awesome!
Wow, that's...
As would be expected from the genre, customers come in, they make an order, you prepare that order, hand it to them, and then get money. Pretty basic stuff. Cooking Clash is a burger bar theme, and there's 2 environments you can play in, but they're essentially the same. Burgers are constructed by putting bun, cooking the meat, and then adding lettuce or cheese or whatever it may be, and serving, and it's all very simple. But what Cooking Clash does differently is it bends a bit on the ridiculous. A lot of the customers that will come into your shop will be animals, such as pigs and cows. And you can serve them, of course, or you can open the drawer under your counter, take out a gun and shoot them. Now, this does seem a little extreme, and you will lose a lot of money for doing so, but you'll also get ingredients to make further dishes with. And these ingredients will be free, essentially. Normally, placing a burger on the grill costs a couple of bucks, and so you've got to make sure that you're preparing the food adequately in order to make money from this. However, take out a few guys in your shop and you got a bunch of free meat or fries or whatever ingredients they leave behind, potentially improving your score. It does seem quite ridiculous that you have these weapons in a drawer under your counter, and they're not like, you have a baseball bat, which is, you know, maybe for protection if you're in a restaurant. I don't know, I've never worked in a restaurant. But having a hand grenade does seem a little extreme. And so are some of the orders that you'll come up against. Often you'll find your customers will be coming in and ordering, while they begin with just a basic burger, a few minutes into the run, and you'll find they'll be ordering big stacks with multiple beef patties and lettuce on several levels, and it can be quite complicated. However, this is really all the game does differently to normal time management games, especially normal VR time management games. The likes of Shoppencraft, for which you can see our review up the top now, had a unique theme, at least. It was put together in a different fashion with lots of interactive objects, which you had to perform actions with in different ways. Cook and Clash doesn't have any of this. It's a very normal setup burger bar, and the actions that you'll be performing are quite normal. Placing a burger on the grill, putting it in the bun, serving it to a customer. You do have extendable arms, which is an interesting mechanic. By pushing the two analog sticks forward, your arms can reach out further into the counter or into the environment. But the level of interaction you have there is very limited. It works well for keeping up to pace when you're trying to reach for objects that are further away. Maybe you're going in two different directions and physically moving there would take too much time, whereas just extending your arms brings that time down. It is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty generic time management game in VR. It's not to say it's a bad one, but we can't really fathom what it is about Cook and Clash that has drawn the audience in so far. Given the popularity of Cook and Clash, it's likely that developers will bring more features and more updates to the game in the long run, so we wouldn't discount it as an enjoyable time management game right now. But as things stand, it's pretty generic. There are definitely better time management simulators available on MetaQuest.